Remember 3 years ago, it was Russell Westbrook's fault. Then it was Frank Vogel's fault. Then it was D'Angelo Russell's fault. Then it was Darvin Ham's fault. It's always somebody else's fault.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
We can go one-on-one, get any shot we want. They got a good shot every time. The Lakers could never keep them in front of them.
It's Dinwiddie. James the bump to the right.
Keep saying the Lakers stink, plain and simple. We have to talk about them because the media is infatuated with the Lakers. But the Lakers are not a good team.
3-point attempts. Here comes Washington. We got them in a trade about this time. Nice defense by Dallas. Hardy on the fly. Christie in the way. Kicks it in the corner. Clay, three! It's coming off a scoreless game a couple nights ago in Houston. Grimes. Corner, wide open three.
I could probably play this game at a high level by about another, weird I might say, about another 5 to 7 years if I wanted.
25 points per game at age 39. That's the LeBron James story you know. But flip the highlight reel and you'll catch the NBA's most protected secret. The King has quietly become one of the league's worst defenders, giving up 118.4 points per 100 possessions. While ESPN celebrates his scoring milestones, opposing teams are having a field day against a player who now treats defense like an optional extra. Welcome to the untold story of LeBron's defensive surrender. Historical context. The Lakers' defensive spiral isn't just a 2024 story. It's a pattern that tracks perfectly with LeBron's declining defensive effort. 3 years ago, when their defense crumbled, fingers pointed at Russell Westbrook. Before that, Frank Vogel took the fall. Then D'Angelo Russell became the scapegoat, followed by Darvin Ham shouldering the blame. But through every coaching change, every roster shuffle, one constant remained: LeBron James. Let's rewind the tape. During the 2020 championship run, James was still playing serviceable defense. Not his Miami Heat peak, but enough to anchor a top 5 defensive unit. Fast forward to 2024, and the Lakers have plummeted to 22nd in defensive rating, worse than any season under Vogel or Ham. They're now bottom 5 in fast break points allowed and paint protection, areas where LeBron once excelled. The numbers paint a clear timeline of decline, from defensive anchor to defensive liability. Remember the player who once switched onto prime Derrick Rose in crucial playoff moments? That same player now routinely waves at defenders as they drive past, saving his energy for the offensive end. What makes this transformation especially jarring? The Lakers just traded for defensive specialist Dorian Finney-Smith, yet their defensive rating has dropped even further, to a shocking 117.6 over the past 5 games. Only the rebuilding Wizards, struggling Nets, and G League level Raptors rank worse. Evidence-based analysis. Watch any Lakers game from the past 2 weeks, and LeBron's defensive lapses fall into 4 clear categories. The film doesn't lie, especially against Dallas and Houston. First, there's the transition defense, or rather, the complete lack of it. While teammates sprint back, James often stays behind half court, a pattern that's become so common that Charles Barkley couldn't help but point it out. You're a problem, you're a real problem. The stats back this up. The Lakers allow 15.8 fast break points per game with LeBron on the floor, a bottom 3 mark in the league. Second comes the help defense, particularly glaring in the paint. Against Dallas, multiple possessions showed James standing motionless while guards drove past his teammates. ESPN's own footage captured him watching, hands on hips, as opponents scored uncontested layups. Even Warriors scoreless Klay Thompson managed to grab offensive rebounds right in front of him. Third, and perhaps most telling, is his pick-and-roll defense. The footage from recent games shows James going under every screen, sometimes ignoring them entirely. As Shaq noted during Inside the NBA, when you see a 39-year-old consistently going under screens against good shooters, that's not strategy, that's survival. Finally, there's his notorious blame-shifting body language. After every defensive breakdown, the cameras catch the same scene: James throwing his hands up, pointing fingers, never acknowledging his own mistakes. This matches perfectly with Kenny Smith's courtside observation: it's never his fault, always somebody else's. Media narrative analysis. ESPN's handling of LeBron's defensive decline reads like a masterclass in selective storytelling. The same network that dedicates entire segments to his 27 points at age 39 barely whispers about his defensive stats. Even when they do address it, like in that telling clip from 6 years ago, they somehow spin defensive load management into a positive. This doesn't mean the King can't move anymore, he's just choosing when to exert himself. The contrast in coverage is almost comical. Score 30 points? That's breaking news. Stand still while opponents score? That's conveniently edited out of the highlights. As the footage from Dallas showed, LeBron's defensive breakdowns lead directly to opponent points, yet these clips rarely make SportsCenter's top 10. JJ Redick, the self-proclaimed basketball savant, typifies this media protection program. In his post-game podcasts, he'll dissect every role player's defensive mistake, but stays mysteriously silent about LeBron's defensive no-shows. Even when the Lakers' defensive rating plummeted to 27th over their last 5 games, the conversation somehow shifted to team-wide issues. The most telling moment? When ESPN briefly acknowledged LeBron's defensive struggles, they immediately cushioned it with beautiful offensive basketball, terrible defensive basketball from LeBron and the rest of the Lakers. Notice how quickly his individual failure becomes a team problem. This isn't just biased coverage, it's a systematic avoidance of the obvious. As Charles Barkley bluntly put it, we have to talk about them because the media is infatuated with the Lakers, but the Lakers are not a good team. The real story isn't just LeBron's defensive decline, it's the media's reluctance to tell that story honestly. Impact on Lakers' performance numbers don't sugarcoat the truth. The Lakers' defensive collapse starts at the top. Their current 22nd ranked defense isn't just a statistic, it's a symptom of their star players' approach. When your 6'9" veteran leader shows zero interest in protecting the rim, it creates a domino effect. Take the recent Dorian Finney-Smith trade. Lakers front office thought they'd found their defensive savior, shipping out D'Angelo Russell as the supposed weak link. The result? Their defensive rating has actually worsened to 117.6 over the last 5 games, ahead of only the NBA's bottom feeders. As TNT's Charles Barkley pointed out, at what point do people acknowledge LeBron James is an abysmal defender and the biggest problem for the Lakers? The impact on teammates is equally devastating. Anthony Davis, despite his defensive prowess, constantly finds himself in impossible situations, trying to protect the rim while also covering for LeBron's man. Young players learn a dangerous lesson. If the team's leader can coast on defense, why shouldn't they? As for championship aspirations, in today's NBA, where teams like Denver and Boston build their success on two-way excellence, the Lakers' defensive liability makes their title hopes look increasingly unrealistic. They're stuck in basketball purgatory, too talented to tank, too flawed to contend, all while watching their defensive identity erode possession by possession. Broader implications. This isn't just about one player's defensive decline, it's about how we evaluate greatness in the modern NBA. LeBron's situation has exposed a troubling shift in basketball culture. While legends like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant were celebrated for their two-way excellence even in their twilight years, we've somehow accepted that stars can simply opt out of playing defense. The Lakers' future hangs precariously in this new reality. They're caught in a paradox. Building around a superstar who still dominates SportsCenter, highlights while hemorrhaging points on defense. This isn't just about wins and losses, it's about organizational identity. The same franchise that once prided itself on Showtime basketball, backed by tough defense, now watches helplessly as opponents turn their home court into a layup line. More concerning is the NBA media's role in this transformation. The league's coverage has created an unspoken omerta around certain stars' defensive shortcomings. When a YMCA coach would bench a player for not getting back on defense, multi-million-dollar analysts tiptoe around the same issue at the professional level. This selective reporting sets a dangerous precedent for future generations of players. The accountability crisis extends beyond LeBron. His defensive surrender has become a blueprint for other aging stars. Focus on offensive numbers, let defense slide, and watch the media spin it as veteran load management. This approach might preserve individual legacies in the box score, but it erodes the competitive integrity that built the NBA. What's particularly striking is how this impacts young players entering the league. When they see a future Hall of Famer essentially playing one-way basketball without consequences, it reshapes their understanding of what it means to be great. The message becomes clear. Offensive highlights trump defensive responsibility, especially if you're marketable enough. The NBA stands at a crossroads. Will it continue down this path where selective statistics and highlight reels define greatness? Or will there be a return to valuing complete basketball players who impact both ends of the floor? The answer to this question won't just shape LeBron's legacy, it'll define the next era of professional basketball. When the history books write about LeBron James's final seasons, they'll face a choice. document the complete story, or stick to the highlight reel. The evidence we've examined isn't just about defensive metrics or missed rotations. It's about the gap between perception and reality in today's NBA. A future Hall of Famer still dropping 25 points per game has essentially redefined what it means to be a complete player, and not necessarily for the better. The Lakers' defensive freefall isn't just a phase, it's a consequence of choices. While the media celebrates longevity records and scoring milestones, they're missing the bigger story: how one player's defensive surrender can undermine an entire team's championship hopes. The pattern of blame shifting from Westbrook to Vogel to Russell to Ham only masks the constant variable in this equation. Looking ahead, this isn't just about LeBron or the Lakers. It's about what we value in basketball. When did we decide that playing both ends of the floor was optional for superstars? When did we accept that leadership means pointing fingers instead of setting an example? The answers to these questions will shape not just the Lakers' future, but the entire league's competitive spirit. If this breakdown made you see the game differently, hit that subscribe button. We're bringing you the NBA analysis others won't touch. Drop your thoughts below, hit the bell, and stick around. Because in this channel, we keep it real. Until next time, remember, the truth isn't always in the highlight reel.